Star Trek 57, M23, take 2.
It's the It's Got Star Trek podcast.
I can't believe you actually want to explore quantum realities.
You don't?
I'd be happy to never hear the word multiverse ever again.
What's wrong with exploring?
Oh, real exploring is great. We go out into the galaxy and visit strange new worlds. What you do isn't exploring.
I must look like I'm stuck in one spot, huh?
The multiverse is just a rehash of stuff I already know.
You sound a lot like Zeph. It took him a minute to get it, too. We don't need to meet new species.
Okay, then why bother exploring at all?
To better understand ourselves. It's fun to learn about aliens, but learning about humanity, that's something else. I've met humans who've built rings around the sun. I've met others whose ships are the size of continents. I'm learning about what humans can be, mapping our potential. So far, it's limitless.
I never thought about it like that.
I'm going to click this button.
I'm going to click the button.
Clickety clicks.
The audience does not need to be privy
Patrick clicks.
to what we were discussing earlier.
No.
It was nonsense.
It was there was nothing prurient about it. There was nothing offensive about it.
No, it was just a
Quite
bunch
inoffensive.
bunch of silliness.
But
We're silly guys.
probably not of particular interest to the majority of our
We had
audience.
Okay.
a silly parlay.
Great. Speaking of audience, hello, audience.
Hello.
Hey, what's up, my man?
Hi, audience. You guessed it.
Salamander.
You guessed it.
What did they guess?
You're-
What do they
What
win?
they're listening to.
What do they win?
You are listening to the It's Got Star Trek podcast.
Oh, no way. I know these guys. They're super nice.
We are super nice.
I'm not
Thank you,
nice.
Mariner. I mean, Jesse's nice in most contexts.
Asshole.
Jesse's one of
Totally.
those guys who's nice until he ain't, if you know what I
Oh,
mean, right?
shit.
Big time.
You know? You know?
Oh, yeah. Dan knows.
I know.
All right, so
Can we start?
It's Got Star Trek. Welcome to the podcast.
Got it. Bring it in, everyone.
This is episode
Got it.
268
Whoa, no way.
of the It's Got Star Trek podcast.
Good.
No, all right. I was wondering if there was going to be a sound there, and there 'twas. So, yeah, all right, welcome. We've done that a few times now.
good.
It's got Star Trek 268, so they know that bit. This week, we have a lot to discuss, so we'll try to minimize the front half bullshit.
You know, when
Save any bullshit for the end.
we really should have split this up differently so we did the next episode next week.
Well, we didn't know this was going to be a to be continued.
No, we didn't
thing.
know that.
They fucking did that shit.
Yeah,
You're all good.
I like see. There's Jesse being nice until he ain't. It's like they did this to us.
Paramount
No, we have a
Plus.
lot to discuss because this week we are discussing 2 episodes. We were out of town last week, or at least a portion of us were out of town, so we weren't able.
you.
We weren't able to record.
I've hit rock bottom.
So we provided a bonus episode in lieu of our regular coverage. So instead,
It wasn't a bonus episode. It's only a bonus
know.
episode if it's in addition to, not in lieu
Oh
of.
my goodness.
Well, for more of that,
Way back on that.
argument, listen to
Silence,
that.
fool!
Listen to that episode. It was what did we call it? Danny Long clips, sound clips.
I didn't call it nothing.
Fucktacular.
Something. No, they were.
Stupid.
We were gonna put "fucksplosion," but we figured they wouldn't let like Apple Podcast and iTunes wouldn't like that. So
That's stupid.
it's called like the sound clip extravaganza. Quiz him up. Quiz extravaganza. That's what it was. Danny Long clips sound clip quiz extravaganza. It's a great episode.
Great.
Dan plays sound clips from across all of Star Trek.
And it's really funny.
And Jesse and I try to guess the character, the series, etc. And the fun part is because Dan didn't always name his files, his sound clip files with full information. Sometimes Dan was getting to guess as well.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, yeah, I didn't actually employ my modern file naming system until like a few months back. So there's a whole bunch that have the name of the sound, but not the episode they're from.
It was definitely an episode for like the true fans of It's Got Star Trek.
Yeah. And as well as any new fans.
Works every time.
It's fun because the audience can play along. You can try to guess what the sound clips are from too. And some of them were quite obscure, I gotta say.
Yeah.
Big time.
A lot of them were quite obscure. Anyway, that was last week.
It was adorable.
So this week we are discussing 2 episodes, and those 2 episodes are Upper Decks.
All right.
That's episode 8 of season 5, and Fissure Quest,
Let's do this.
which is episode 9. And as Dan was alluding to, we've now learned after watching Fissure Quest that it is the first part of a 2-parter that will be concluded next week in the series
Fissure
finale.
Quest supposed to be like Vision Quest?
I think it's similar to Vision Quest. Yes. Because isn't there like a Voyager? Is that a Voyager one, or,
It's just
is it Deep Space Nine?
I thought it was some kids' elementary school did like when they went to that obstacle course and had to beat it together or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, you mean
Had to
like
beat
the
it
name?
together?
No.
Hey Dan.
I did not say what you
Dan.
implied.
Look, Dan, we do mark this episode. We do mark this podcast as explicit, but that's a little too blue for my taste.
Oh, snap.
Shut up and leave me alone.
Hold on. Vision Quest Star Trek. I'm typing this in here. Memory Alpha. Sacred Ground talks about Chakotay doing some sort of Vision Quest. Voyager,
That's
Coil,
stupid.
the Flight, Voyager, the Cloud, Journey's End, the Cloud, Cathax.
This is titillating podcast.
I know. I like reading stuff. Yeah. Okay.
We don't have any like mail 'em ups or
So,
anything.
so
Oh,
did
no,
you
no.
wait? Did you answer the question that you asked, or was that just a big waste of time?
I mean, it was mostly a waste of time. Vision quests have been mentioned on Star Trek. I was also thinking of the King of the Hill episode with Bobby and the Bobby Panda, you know, and the whole panda thing.
That's not Star Trek.
No, it's not Star Trek.
Yeah, Bobby Panda, right.
Bobby Panda.
Bobby
Pandas.
Then he's on like on Hollywood Squares at the end.
Yes.
Bobby Panda. He's all like, my mother-in-law.
Okay. All right. So that was King of the Hill Minute. And now we're back to It's Got Star Trek, the Star Trek podcast where we talk about
Star Trek.
mostly Star Trek.
All right.
And some Pulp Fiction.
That's what we're going to discuss this week, and we can get right into it. Unless there's anything else, because we don't have any immediate. We'll save any email them
No
ups or anything like.
immediate made 'em ups.
We'll
I mean-
save all that till next week.
I mean, I had a short game show called Spy Games. But
Ooh, I know. I want to play. This is the time to do it.
okay.
All right. I know there's a bunch of people at home saying like, "Oh shit, they almost got to the discussion,
Almost, but
Almost
not
got
quite.
it.
but not quite."
He
Okay.
derailed them again.
Dan's
I
created
did.
a game
Dan
called
character.
Spy Game.
So I'm going to play a clip. It's about a minute long.
Okay.
And your job is I'm going to ask you a question at the end of that clip. Is
Okay.
it referring to a detail of this?
What question are you going to ask?
Well, that's the Spy Games part of it.
Jesse's
And
being
you have,
coy, Jesse,
and
tonight.
it's like, you know, when you walk in a room and you have to like, you have a second to look at it, and then someone's like, what color tie was that guy wearing? How many like socks were in the corner or whatever, you know, something like that. This is actually,
It sounded like an exciting game.
so
Okay, now here's a question for you.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, guessing, knowing what I know of you and your professionalism,
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that you said this, you know, you described this clip as being a minute long. I'm assuming, or perhaps presuming, that once you ask the question, and then Jesse and I fumble around and try to answer the question properly, that any audio clips you'll need to play will not require playing the entire 1 minute clip again.
No, and that's part of the game is you can only listen to it once.
Okay.
So yeah, right. No, it's not gonna be one of those. It's not like Duty or No Duty where I have to play it over and over again, and that works because they're short. No, this is one time. You get one shot at this.
Okay, good.
All right.
Jesse, we're one shot. At
Okay,
this.
and then
we're ready
actually-
to listen to this minute long
And
clip.
just to let people know, because this might confuse them, it's a clip of us.
Oh, okay.
Here we go.
In the dark.
Purple data.
That's the song
Whistling,
my
whistling,
wife danced with
whistling
her
Purple
father
data.
at our wedding.
Yes, I remember that. That was cool.
Yeah, it was
It was a
totally,
cool
it was
wedding-
totally awesome. You guys were
wedding
like,
dance.
whoa, that's so awesome.
Oh, man, this is great. This is really everything I wanted it to be.
All right. Well, you've successfully thrown me thrown me for a loop when we were trying to get.
You're getting on my case for like playing a few sounds, but Mr.
I'm not-
Tangent over here like going off like, oh, I just can't resist from singing a song when I hear a few
I'm
words.
going to recite Whistling in the Dark. over
Sir,
it.
I am not getting on your case. I am quite.
You do. You're like you're
I'm
always
quite
no,
entertained
you're
and
totally
amused
no, you're totally
by
getting on
these
my case
distractions.
when you say like, okay, well done. When you say like, well done, that's your way of saying time to move on. I'm sick of this. That's what you mean when you say well done. You mean I'm sick of this.
Well, I was about to say I could be ordering a steak.
Please do not shut me down mid-conversation.
Ordering a steak or a burger, but you know me too well, and you know that I would not be ordering a well-done steak.
What the
or
fuck are you
burger.
talking about? Oh, not the fuck you. You took my words and you made them different.
No. Anyway, don't worry about it.
Chicken.
Yeah, I know. I said well done. You took my words. You made it say something different.
You'll appreciate it more when you listen back. All right. What was I going to say?
The only way I can handle the pain is by playing my beloved soap flute.
Did you get a good sense of that clip?
I think we got a good sense of that clip.
My question is, what did I gain from listening back to that clip again? Like you said I would.
I have no idea.
I don't think you gained anything.
Like what did I get? What did I get the second time around that I didn't get the first time around?
I don't know. What you tell me, Dan.
Because you specifically said, listen to this again. You listen
No,
to it
that's
one more
not how
time.
the game works. You have to tell him.
You were like, listen to it again, Dan, and you'll understand what I'm saying, or
Well,
something
what
like
if
that.
I said I know what I meant, but I kind of don't want to embarrass you by.
Oh no, you're playing.
Oh,
now you're playing that game.
No, I'm just joking. No, I have no idea. I wasn't paying enough attention. I was trying to pay attention, but not in the right
there was a lot of
context.
stuff
I think what you were doing
simultaneous.
is I think you were making the well done steak joke. And when at first I said, what the fuck are you talking about? I didn't immediately get it, but then I got it. And I was like, oh, you mean you took my words and you made them something else. But you didn't get that I got the joke. You were stuck on the part where I didn't get the joke.
So now I get it.
So what you were
Now
saying,
you're gonna
you were
get it.
telling me to listen back because you didn't think I got the well done steak joke you made. When I kept saying, no, you made the words different. And you didn't understand that when I said that, it was saying I got your joke. You still thought I didn't know what you're talking about.
Is this
That's
really
why
a
you
game show?
That's
or is
what
this something else? you got ulterior motives going on.
I don't think this is a game show. This is one of them classic Dan prosecute 'em ups.
Okay.
Well,
that was
well
a fun
done,
game.
Dan. Well done.
Is that game a keeper?
Well done. Yes, let's play it again. Call them out 'em ups.
Call them out 'em ups.
Okay. All right. Let me pick up some nonsense I knocked over. Okay. Very good. Very good. All right. Upper Decks. Shall we talk about Upper Decks?
I guess we should.
On the dark.
Purple data.
Purple data. Purple
That's
data.
the song.
Whistling in
Be
the dark.
ordering a
Whistling
Oh,
in the
wait.
dark. Whistling.
Please do not shut me.
Dark. I don't know what you're doing right
Oh,
now.
not the fuck you. You took my words and you made them different.
No. Okay, so audience is weird.
Anyway,
Because,
don't worry
The chicken.
Yeah.
Present Dan didn't say that. That was past Dan.
Oh,
Past Dan was talking about.
He did that thing again.
I'm playing the. I know. I said well done. You took my words. You made it say something different.
You'll appreciate it more when you listen back.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. What more did I appreciate?
I don't know, but
It's not clear.
I get the impression that you do appreciate it more because you're taking up a lot of the next episode's time talking about that.
I think that was a fun game show. I think that was a success.
All right.
Okay, now we can move.
Very good. Okay, Upper Decks. Now I gotta find my fucking notes and shit here.
You're a freaky little monster that lives in my brain.
Yes.
Upper Deck seems like there's a few story threads, and like some of them could be like A plots in their own episode, and some of them could be B plots in their own episode, but they're all kind of strung together.
It was a fun,
Very fun, I'd say.
brilliant, if sort of brilliantly simple idea, but brilliant nevertheless to do a reversey on TNG's Lower Decks.
Yeah, I thought that was cool, and this was like kind of the time to do it. Like,
Perfect. Like
yeah.
last season, I mean, maybe this is something that they might have wanted to save for later. I've suggested that there probably are some plot lines that they needed to squeeze in quickly because they were probably planning on stringing it out a little bit longer. But although it was different in the sense, Jesse, because like you said, in the Lower Decks episode, the TNG Lower Decks episode, there's like working more on one mission. I know they're doing different things because they're in different departments, but this is more like we're seeing all the main characters,
there's
like
like-
all the upper deckers doing
There's
different
freaky
things.
shit going on in engineering. There's like freaky shit going on in like a cargo bay.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, so they kind of tried to tie most of them together. So like there was the Rancid story, which that was
Did you say Rancid?
Ransom. I meant Ransom. The Ransom story where they were like hauling in those space cows. Now I wasn't clear. Did they just
bagoons? What were they called?
They were called bug goons. Yeah, bagoons.
Oh my god, I didn't even make that. I was just like bagoons.
I thought they were adorable when they walked by spinning their little arms around. At the end, when
slurping and their little baby bagoon.
And at the end, the baby one that all squeaked and like wasn't going to catch up, and I was like, oh no! And then like he caught up, and then I laughed and I started crying.
The only problem I have like with the name bagoon is it has the flavor of a slur. You know, like it seems like something you'd call some marginalized group that has just entered your planet or something.
But like when Yosemite Sam calls people maroons.
Yeah.
Bagoons.
Yeah.
So
it also
maybe
sounds like
that's
Beezus
what it is.
Fuffoon.
So
it does sound a little like Beezus Fuffoon.
So Ransom. So I wasn't clear. Did they stumble upon these bagoons, or were they looking for them?
They said the scientist guy that was on the ship that turned out to be a clicket in disguise.
Yes, he turned out to be a clicket. So the Ransom story gave us the bagoons and the scientist guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we found out that dude was actually a clicket. Then there was the Shaq's whole like PTSD living nightmare thing, which tied in because it like allowed him to unwittingly beat the crap out of a whole crew of dudes. The Tana tied in. Tana tied in because like in a weird way because she didn't feel pain, which somehow I guess they were implying that allowed her to not be killed by that death phaser they shot it. I don't think that's how pain thresholds work. I think you die, but I think that's
just traditionally not.
No, but I think that's what they were implying when like they shot her, and that's sort of like how that tied in. The Freeman one was funny because like she was basically watching Crew's performances. That was her job all day.
The sousaphone recital.
Yeah,
that was
performance
great.
to performance to performance.
And like she does that dance at the end, and then she takes off the sousaphone and just chucks it.
There was some sousaphone battle stuff like. That reminded me of that was when they shot the laser and it went through the tube. That reminded me of that scene in Spaceballs.
Yeah,
when
exactly
Princess Baseball. And then there was the tuba battle. I love that.
There were so many tuba jokes in this episode.
I love that gag where they like every time the tuba does something, it like makes a tuba note.
And the sound design is really good.
Yeah. So this job that she had was seemingly ineffectual, right? But it turned out like it was good.
Oh, just beautiful.
It is really hard to talk.
I mean, this is a very long clip that you have. They don't call them Denny long clips for no reason.
So her job was seemingly ineffectual, but it actually kind of built morale because at the end, both Winger Bingston Jr. and Barnes like came to her aid in the end, and that was probably in part because she came to see their performances and they appreciate it. But then there was the Billups story, which had nothing to do with anything.
Billups was just a standard engineer who loves fixing stuff. Story.
Except like all the engineering problems happened because of some half-ass job he did before.
Yes, that's true.
It was all him trying to fix his own shit. And like it started with that light that Meredith found, and which unraveled everything and it all fell apart. By the way, I was listening to her voice. I was like, where do I recognize that?
You mean the Australian engineer?
Yeah, her name is Charlotte. If I'm pronouncing this wrong, I apologize. Nicdao, Nicdao.
Nicdao.
Yeah, Charlotte. And the reason I remember her voice, I looked on IMDb. She's on this show on Apple TV called Mythic Quest.
With the French.
Rob McElhenney.
I'm familiar with the show. I've seen previews of it, but I haven't watched it.
She plays Poppy. I like the show. I think it's good.
I heard it is entertaining.
Yeah.
Is it one of those Dungeons and Dragons-y type businesses?
Yeah, the deal is it's a workplace comedy show, but their business is they run an MMO like World of Warcraft or something like that. But it's called Mythic Quest.
Mythic Quest.
Yeah, but it's just a silly workplace comedy, really. Yeah. So it's kind of like how the Orville, when you look at it, that's just kind of like a workplace comedy.
It really is.
Yeah.
You know what's another one?
Star Trek?
No.
Star Trek.
The Office.
Ah, that's your quintessential workplace comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can name more.
Quintessential means it's 5 times as essential as other things.
Octessential.
Cheers was kind of like that.
Yes, Cheers was a workplace comedy.
They all worked there.
Cheers is definitely a workplace
No, more
comedy.
people didn't work there than did work there.
okay,
No, but it is
but-
taking place in the workplace.
somebody
But
was
it's also,
working there.
but it's, I
You've
mean,
got Sam Malone, you got Woody, you
but,
got Coach,
But it also takes place in a restaurant.
you
which
got Carla.
Coach wasn't really working out.
You got Carl, and you have like Norm, not Carl, Cliff
Cliff and Norm.
and
yeah.
Norm.
I still think it's more workers than non-workers.
I don't know.
Frasier doesn't work there. Cliff and Norm don't work there, but Carla works there. Woody works there.
But then there's Lilith.
And then like usually
Yeah.
the ladies on the show, like there were two of them at different times.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
worked,
They worked there as well.
I would consider it part.
I think it's 4 people.
I think it's
working
part
there.
way because the thing about a restaurant, it's like one person's job but another person's relaxation, so it's different. Anyway, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Not at all.
But yeah. So, anyways,
Workplace
That was
comedy.
my fault.
Oh yeah. Anyways, that was just saying
Mythic Quest.
That's where I recognized Poppy from.
Well,
Anyway,
Cool.
Poppy. So that's cool.
That is cool.
But yeah,
I like recognizing people from other projects.
So that's what I like that it tied all together. I was not such a big fan of the whole resolution where Freeman was like, "Oh, they hate compliments," because it's kind of like it was just an easy out. They mentioned it at the beginning.
It was
they
a little extreme.
What they did is they basically said, "This is how we beat them," and
The
then
MacGuffin.
at the end they just said, "We're gonna beat them doing this." You know, it's like, they might as well have said, "It's like say bibbity boo." That's how we're gonna win. And then they do a bunch of stuff, and at the end they're like, "Oh yeah, bibbity boo," and then they die. It's about it. It doesn't tie into anything. It's just like it's just they're setting up their own victory at the
Totally.
beginning. So
It's a very self-contained show
Starfleet,
episode
baby.
in that.
But
sense.
I did like the episode. I just didn't like that ending as
Had
much.
Miggly Moo.
It did.
Oh,
Miggly Moo.
your face
And
fell
Paul,
off.
Paul F. Tompkins also played the Clicket who was disguised as the scientist.
tight.
Interestingly, I don't think he did the voice for the scientist. I think that
Wonder
was
what they're
somebody
mad
else.
about now.
But when he transformed, when his face fell off, like right,
Your kind words burn me!
then it was played by Paul F. Tompkins, and who also plays Dr. Miglimo, and who is just awesome. I love Paul.
Depending on texture and flavor.
Wait,
Yes.
I forget what's Miggly Moo's first name. They said it in that episode. That was
Is it like Paul or something?
Miggly Moo. Sent
I don't remember actually. I remember them mentioning it, but I don't remember what it
Yeah,
was.
I'll look it up later.
All right. Jesse's gonna look it up later. Dan's gonna look it up now.
Yeah.
But
just
no,
gonna
Gabbers. Is it Gabbers?
Gabbers.
Gabbers Miglimo.
Yeah, Miggly Mo. I always forget it's Miggly Mo.
Miglimo. So I really like the
Miggly
idea
D's
of doing
nuts.
the upper decks, and then so we don't see our lower deckers in this one. And intriguingly, in the next episode, which we'll discuss,
see the
a little
upper
bit,
deckers, though.
We also don't really see our lower deckers much. So this is 2 episodes where we're sort of removed from our core characters.
You're right. I don't.
I could have just used the first half of that. Can you do like some quick editing so it just says you're right? Can you like stop
You're right. I don't.
Whoops, I tried. Wait.
You're right.
There, excellent, brilliant.
That's what I should have cut out.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
But the story setup is fun. I like that they're doing these different things, and these are characters that we all really enjoy. Even though they're not the main characters, it's cool that they gave them this opportunity to
Yes.
see them having some of their adventures in a more extensive way than we might otherwise.
Big time.
What we didn't get to see much of who were people who are on the senior staff are Miglimo, right? We didn't really get, he was in a little bit.
He didn't have his own.
Oh crap.
And also Kayshawn. Kayshawn was shown,
Yeah,
but we didn't get to see any fun stuff with him. But I get it. You got
Mosaro, when the lake was smooth.
yeah.
I like how he says that. Lake was
Well,
smooth.
Carl Tart's another one of my favorites. He's just
When
a
the lake was smooth.
brilliant performer. And another one to go check out on Comedy Bang Bang.
Check it out.
And other things along with Paul F. Tompkins.
Check it out.
Good character work.
There you go.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Specific things about this episode. Now is where I'm going to go look at my notes.
You're gonna look at your notes. V'ger.
It would have been cool. I know why they didn't. I know it's expensive and it's only for 1 episode. It would have been cute if they had changed the opening credits a little bit to say upper
I agree.
deckers,
I agree.
or upper decks.
I agree.
There weren't any jokes about upper deckers.
Like poop jokes.
I don't think people know about that.
Yeah.
I think most people probably know what an upper decker is. If you don't know what a upper decker is, the polite way of saying it is that's when you go to a friend's house, usually a friend's house. Because I mean, why are you?
Why would you do it to yourself?
Or no, or like, are enemies inviting you to their house? Probably not. So probably, realistically, if you're going to do an upper decker, it's probably going to be at a friend's house, certainly at an acquaintance house.
You might make an enemy.
And then what you do is in the toilet, if you're using the toilet that's common in the United States as well as some other places,
The bog standard toilet?
I recognize that in other countries you have different designs of toilets where this
This human is full of words.
where this may be impractical or indeed impossible to do. But in a standard
Some
North
places
American
don't even
toilet,
have toilets.
How long does it take to say what you're trying to say?
I'm just trying to be accurate here with
You're
an upper decker.
taking a long ass time to say what you're trying to say.
We'll get back. This is important. You take the top off.
Not with me around.
You take the top off the tank of the toilet, and then you deposit in whatever way you see fit. You deposit some
your
feces
business.
into the top tank of the toilet, and then you replace the lid because that's important. Because otherwise, you get caught out right away. And then what happens is that every time somebody goes to flush the toilet, poop comes out. Poop water comes out. And
I think it's cute.
the more they flush it, the more poop water comes out. And that's what is known colloquially.
It's horrible.
And I believe scientifically as an upper decker.
I have made a joke at your expense.
Yes. But this episode was not upper deckers, it was upper decks, but I still thought they might make an upper decker joke. But they didn't.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, okay. Good.
I think it's cute.
So yeah. V'ger. They talked about V'ger. I forget, what's V'ger?
From the Star Trek, the motion picture.
Yeah.
movie.
Oh, right,
Voyager.
yeah.
Remember Voyager 6? Voyager
Yeah,
6
it was
goes away and
Voyager.
gets all Borgified and then comes
Wait,
back.
who's the storm in the background?
That's
of the
V'ger.
That's V'ger.
Yeah,
Okay.
in the fifth season opening.
Must join with V'ger. 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 Must join with V'ger.
I like that one.
Yeah, I was.
It's the best one yet.
Did you label those clips as beats?
One of them was named this
Must join with V'ger.
was beat. This is just sound. Can you guess what that sound is? That's
That's the tuba
is that Barnes
recital. Sousaphone recital.
with
Yeah.
the tuba?
Yeah, and that's one just sound, but I decided that because I liked this so much.
Must join with V'ger. Must join with V'ger.
I like that so much, I wanted to add something else. And
Yeah,
I
you do
found
gotta
out-
add some flavor to it.
Yeah, so I was like,
Must join with V'ger. Must join with V'ger. Must join with V'ger.
oops. Hold
All
on a
right.
second. Wait. Let
Oh
me try
no.
it again.
Okay, what's going on?
Must
over here?
join with V'ger. Must join with V'ger. Must join with V'ger. Must join with V'ger. Must join with V'ger.
That's pretty good.
Do you think anybody will ever get tired of that?
Of what, that beat, that particular beat?
not
No,
me.
just of the sound constructions in general. Because I haven't yet.
Not me.
I don't think our audience has because it
Oh, you're
continues to
talking about
grow.
these, right.
I'm just curious if one day people will be like, you guys got to move on to something else.
Like, stop doing these beats.
No,
It's up to you.
What do I do?
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 Like those?
Yeah.
I don't get tired of them.
No, I don't get tired of it.
I could do a whole episode with all my beats.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good idea. Maybe for another bank episode or Patreon episode. By the way,
Another bonk episode.
we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/itscottstartrek, where we put all sorts of silly stuff on there, including silly stuff like this sometimes.
I want tactile buttons, though.
Is that the next
You
evolution?
got a tactile butt.
How would I even do a tactile button situation with this, though? I
No,
don't
you
even
wouldn't.
know.
You'd have to buy a board. You can get boards
Yeah.
that are
Buy a board.
soundboards.
Yeah, like they're called the instant
buy
replay
a board,
machine.
baby.
Yeah, and then you just assign different
Get a
things.
board
but
board.
the thing is then every episode you'd have to like remap all your stuff.
Yeah,
Buy
it
a
does pain in the
board.
butt.
But you can also they have buttons where you'll have like 36 buttons
They
and
got
you can
buttons on
map
that
everything.
board.
But then you can
Yeah,
like
pages.
do pages. Yeah.
Instant replay machines are actually pretty expensive last night, which is silly because they're just like a box that plays sound. But
Now here's presuming you're in a scenario where you can technically afford it. Do you think it would be worth getting one of those, or where would it be in your priority list? Because there's a couple other sound machines that you were thinking of getting.
it's pretty. Getting an instant replay machine is pretty
Sound
low on my
machines.
priority list.
As compared to like a synthesizer?
Yeah.
Weren't there some particular synthesizers you were interested in?
Yeah, there's some good ones out there. I was looking at the
Totally.
Arturia Polybrute. Polybrute is a pretty cool looking synthesizer.
Now, wouldn't that be something perhaps an evolution of what we do here on the podcast, where you bring that in and you pop some sounds in there and you like lay
not
down
for
some
that
beats and
because
repeats and
that's
stuff?
that's an analog synthesizer, so that wouldn't be really made.
That's for making tunes.
That's for making like sounds and tunes. It's got analog oscillators, and it's got the ones with all the knobs. They have a ton of knobs. Now, if I were
like knobs.
but there are synthesizers that are more made towards sampling.
Yeah.
And so, but those are weird because you have a keyboard. I don't know. Maybe that would be work.
Yeah,
Work.
'cause-
But how would you label each key to know what sound it played?
I don't know.
That's the thing.
On a grand staff.
You need
grand staff.
You need a convenient, like, readable labeling system.
But
That's
don't
the
they have
main thing.
the little boxes with the little buttons and you just like dials and stuff and you're like, okay.
You can put little stickers
plop
on
a
'em.
sound in there and then it's going to just like start looping that sound.
You get them little stickers, you put them on there.
Well, yeah, maybe if I got stickers. The keys,
stickers.
the keyboard would be a good tactile response, but like I said, I need to have the labels in front of me at all times for each thing.
Yeah, man.
This is kind of a tangent we're going on.
It's a
isn't
good
it?
tangent though.
Yeah.
It's a very good tangent.
It's nice. Yeah.
But
yeah.
we do need to take a break soon. So any
Break them up.
any pre-break points before we continue and then conclude our discussion of Upper Decks and then move on to our discussion of Fissure Quest.
No way.
No way.
No.
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 No way.
No way.
No way.
No way.
I suppose.
Of course not.
One thing I can mention that I don't know, I'm kind of curious how relevant this is beyond even our local region, but every time they mention the term "click it" as for the alien,
You gotta click it before you tick it. Click it before you tick it.
No, well, I was thinking click it or ticket. They ran ads in our area for wearing a seatbelt that were like click it or ticket.
Right.
What Dan has done is he's done a parody version of that song where the lady sings "You gotta lick it before we kick it."
Before we kick it.
Is it? It's not stick it.
Oh no, you gotta lick it before you stick it.
No, it's like so
before
we can kick
so
it.
we can kick
Yeah.
it. The implication of the song is that the woman is requesting,
She's gotta drive
demanding, rightfully so, demanding oral sex prior to sort of
Intercourse.
yes.
Yeah, you're right.
Thank you,
It's,
Jesse.
it's you gotta lick it before we kick it. You gotta take that extra step so we can kick it. They just rhyme kick it with kick it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Well, it's not the most sophisticated song, but I do agree with the core message.
you gotta click it before you tick it.
It's
No,
just
no, but see, that doesn't make sense because the commercial was click it or ticket.
Shut up.
The implication was if you didn't click your seatbelt, you would get a ticket from
But they didn't use that tune. did
one of
they?
the police.
Not with me around.
All right. How about this? Let's take a break.
They just said click it or two.
We will recompose ourselves. I was trying to make like a Mozart or Bach joke there, but it didn't come to me in time. So we're gonna go ahead and take the break, recompose ourselves, and
Now
then
they're decomposed.
conclude our discussion of Upper Decks. We will be right back. Okay, bye. All right, we're back. Hello,
Anything
everyone.
happened while I was gone?
No, nothing happened.
Not a mucho.
Activate the soliton beam.
The clock.
He
is
said that
on.
so seriously.
Soliton.
Activate the soliton beam.
They don't like it when we talk.
That's a different episode.
Oh, are we still on this episode?
Of course, we're still on this episode. It's only like,
Let's do this.
yes, let's.
So I thought for some reason that Stevens had hair. I thought he had hair. Didn't he?
No,
have, did he ever wear a hairpiece?
Not that I
believe
recall.
so.
I thought there was some guy that looked like Billups that had hair.
No, I don't. Well, there might be somebody like Billups who looked like. Well, Billups has hair.
Yeah, Billups has hair, but wasn't there someone?
What about Lundy? Is it Lundy?
Lundy doesn't. I thought it was Lundy, but I looked at a picture of Lundy, and he doesn't remind me of Billups.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought there was someone that maybe it's something that they both had a mustache.
A what?
Hey Jesse, don't mind Dan. This is a new affectation. This is Dan's new mustache specific affectation. How do you say it again, Dan?
Mustache.
No. Use your new affectation.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, you do.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
You'll appreciate it when you listen back.
Hey, you want to play that game show again next week?
Mustache. He's got a mustache.
I'll
Hey, mustache.
If you're not careful, we're gonna play a game of spy games next week.
Oh, no.
Yeah, spy games.
Prosecute 'em ups. I gotcha.
So speaking of Billups, he was talking something about like Cordry rocks falling from the ceiling.
Yes, Cordry rocks.
I
believe it was Cordry. That's what I heard. The joke being, of course, that in a lot of Star Trek, particularly more modern Star Trek, like Discovery and Strange New Worlds, but it happens in older Star Trek as well, when the ship gets shot and the bridge bursts into flame and stuff, that just chunks of rock will fall out of the ceiling and out of the consoles and be scattered around on the floor.
I didn't realize that. I thought it was like in reference to the fact that Paul Scheer and Rob Corddry are the same Cylon model.
Okay, that took me a couple steps to connect, but I get what you're saying. You're putting Paul Scheer and Rob Corddry into the same sort of niche for actors,
They're that
comedic actors.
this person, like there is a finite amount of Cylon models. There's more than 12.
Okay.
But there are Cylon models.
All right.
And
So-
they're part of the same model.
I get what you're saying. I would like to note to the audience that prior to recording the podcast, Dan was going on arguing with Jesse and I, claiming that Sweet Tarts and Smarties are basically the same thing.
Well, they're in the same like fucking game. No, I don't want to say ballpark. I use that phrase too much. They're on the same track. They're on the same track.
On the same track.
You were about to say something about like they're on the same game field or something. It's not ballpark, but they're on the same game.
They're on the
field.
same track.
All right.
There's a general
Smarties and Sweet
connection.
Tarts are more similar.
Then Rob Corddry and
No.
Paul Scheer?
No, Smarties and Sweet Tarts are more similar than dill pickles and bread and butter pickle.
Okay, yeah, that was another thing that during this argument, I suggested that while the broad category, yes, maybe they filled Smarties and Sweet Tarts could fit in the same broad category, that similar to bread and butter pickles versus dill pickles, they are sufficiently different to be, yes, they're all pickles, but they're very different from each other. I think the same thing is true for Sweet Tarts and Smarties, and I think the same thing is true for Rob Corddry and Paul Scheer. And we should specify we're talking about North American Smarties, not UK Smarties.
Damn.
I think Smarties and Sweet Tarts are more similar than dill pickles and bread and butter pickles.
That's my whole worldview. Stop trying to shake it.
All right. Fair point.
See, that's a bold statement, my friend.
We needn't push you too
I
hard.
said
on
that before.
Now, but that doesn't. But when you make them all equal, that doesn't even that makes no qualification of how similar you think they are. So, as far as I know, you could think they're not similar at all.
I don't think they're particularly similar.
Okay, so
You're
you're
not
saying
similar at
that
all.
Sweet Tarts are as similar to Smarties as a dog is to a sock? Is that what you're saying?
Oh man.
No, I mean, yes, of course, we could spend a long time going back and forth and narrowing our respective definitions because we're both coming from different perspectives. This is a largely subjective opinion, not entirely, not wholly subjective.
It's largely selective.
They are not as different as a dog and a sock. I will give you that.
See?
We can stipulate to that fact, Dan. But Smarties and Sweet Tarts, the texture is different, the size is different, the flavor is different, right? Sweet Tarts
They
are
all have
sweet and tart.
No, because like Sweet Tarts and Smarties both have that kind of just pure sugar flavor.
They are pure sugar, but Smarties are...
Depending on texture and flavor.
Yes, and the texture of Smarties is a more brittle, softer.
Yeah, but these are more
Sweet
nuanced.
Tarts are
These are more
stronger.
These are more nuanced differences.
But the main difference is the flavor. Sweet Tarts have a very tart flavor. They really lean into that whole tart business.
yeah.
Whereas Smarties are a very pleasant and mild,
Pretty mild,
sugary flavor. I
crumblies.
love them both. They're both great candies, but I would pull them out in different contexts and for different purposes.
like a Twizzler is so much different than either of those things.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, you're right.
That is correct, sir.
No argument from either Jesse
So
or I.
in order for things to be similar, they have to be basically the same for you.
No.
That's not similar. That's the same. I'm talking about similarity. You're talking about sameness.
From far
Oh,
away,
man.
they're similar, but
You have a broad definition of unique.
No, unique is that's one of my bugaboos. I hate when people say very unique. You
Bugaboo?
can't be very unique.
I didn't say very
I
unique.
didn't say you did, but I'm pointing this out. The unique, I care a lot about the word and the
I know.
misuse, the common misuse of the word unique.
Now you have a
You
broad.
cannot apply an adjective to unique that stresses one thing or the other. Unique means unique. It means one of a kind. You
It
can't
depends
be
on-
very one of a kind.
I mean, but you could say something is uniquely sweet or uniquely brown.
That's
or-
different. That's totally acceptable.
And so, as I'm saying,
uniquely is an
you,
adverb.
You have a very sort of broad definition of what, like, you have a narrow definition of what is similar.
All right. What were we talking about? Star Trek. Paul Corddry and Rob Scheer.
No, no.
I don't actually find them that similar. I know that they are contemporaries, but I think that though they are
They're
both
like bald guys.
bald middle-aged comedians,
that's not why I think they're similar.
I don't put them in the thing because Paul Scheer.
The hair has nothing to do with it.
Paul Scheer has a certain sort of. He's capable of combining both a sweetness and a,
like Sweet Tarts.
and a tartness. That's right. It's actually, thank you. This justifies our entire previous few minutes of conversation because Paul Scheer can do the sweet tart thing, whereas what Rob Corddry can do the sweet kind of shitty thing, you know.
Okay, here's something.
Sheer can be unctuous more so than Cordry, who's just sort of like off-putting.
In this thread,
He makes a lot of
in this
faces.
Reddit thread, this guy says Paul Scheer look-alike, and the first comment says Rob Corddry.
Yeah. Okay, they're similar.
False.
They're definitely similar, but I would still utilize them in different scenarios.
Well, yes, I'm not saying they're the fucking same. I'm saying they're similar.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, it's going to be a rare occurrence that if
everything
I've,
similar
if
has
I've
to be the
developed
same
a
with
character
you?
and I'm casting it, if I'm thinking of a Paul Scheer type or a Rob Corddry type, I'm not going to do a reversey and be like, oh, I can interchange those. If they're not available, if Paul Scheer is not available for a Paul Scheer type, I'm not going to meet or Rob Corddry. I'm going to go to somebody else. I'm going to go to somebody else.
Shit.
That's stupid.
Good job, Button Boy.
Everyone thinks you're a doofus.
I accept that. I accept
Button boy.
Oh, your face fell off. I guess I have to compliment you on a successful invasion. I'm impressed with your whole vibe. You're handsome. You're handsome. I love your work. You're amazing at subterfuge.
All right, we only have a few
Stirring
more.
stuff, Mr. Bingston. I wish I could stay.
Act
but
7, the Oberth year.
The Oberth year.
Yeah, because Oberth is a class of ship. Oberth class, like in Star Trek 3, I think the u.s.s. Grissom was an Oberth class ship, if I recall correctly.
Hermann Julius Oberth was an Austro-Hungarian-born German physicist and rocket pioneer of Transylvanian Saxon descent.
Hey, I'm part Austro-Hungarian.
He supported Nazi Germany's war, apparently.
Probably.
I'm not into that.
That's not cool.
That's a strong stance
I
you're taking.
strongly disavow National Socialism and all the tenets associated therein.
That's not good stuff at all.
Good.
No.
Mosaro,
But
when
at
the
least-
lake was smooth.
But at least it's an ethos.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
Granted.
That's a Big Lebowski joke. So, okay, but yes, before we conclude our
I think it's
discussion
cute.
because we've only got a few minutes left, I thought it did make sense for us to...
Gormaganders, there's Gormaganders and like
You're a Gormagan.
like were these like space manatees? No, they were more like bugs. They were space
They're
bugs.
buggies.
Yeah, they're bagoons.
But they weren't manatees, but he still called them space cows.
Well, what I was trying to get out, what I was trying to say...
Well, they look like cows to me.
is that we should at least briefly touch on the core...
Touch on you.
the core story for each of the characters, starting with Ransom. Might as well start with the bagoons and Ransom.
I touched on it a little at the beginning.
Yes, you did. But I thought let's just go into a little bit more detail because I think one of the key things here, and we're going to see more of this in the next episode, and I'll talk about that in a
Do you want to
moment.
know what was on
next
what was on
What I want to
Freeman's
know,
pad?
what I want to know is how my sentence concludes. That's what I would like to
I'd
know.
like to know that too.
Oh man,
I would like to know
How ironic.
I'm feeling. It's Patrick. No, that's the thing is I don't think
part
he
of-
is.
The
I
part
don't.
of Dan tonight is being played by
I don't think Patrick is. Oh, you do feel empathy then. Okay, I wasn't sure if you felt that empathy or if you were just completely
necessarily.
oblivious.
I'm
feel
hyper empathetic. No, the
How does it feel, motherfucker?
with the characters, what I dig about this story is that not only do we get to see a little bit more of each of these characters, or at least a bunch of them, but Lower Decks is so good at having the characters act the way the characters are supposed to act, right? They tell stories within the confines of how they've characterized these characters and how their characters have evolved. I apologize for saying the word character.
You're such a character.
I am. Just because you are a character does not mean you have character.
Big time.
Yeah. And with Ransom, we get to see again that Ransom is a good leader. He comes off as sort of a jackass a lot of the times. Jackass Ransom, but he knows what he's doing, and he's good at working these ensigns and getting them to do what they needed to do. It took him a few tries, but he got there in the end. And I like that they had the ensign recognize that. Right? Was it Barnes? I forget who it was at the end. Who?
No, that was
it
Moxie.
Oh,
it was
Moxie. Yeah, Moxie was the
So
one who
Moxie
actually
was the red
recognized
hair.
it.
Fedorov was the dude. Then there was Karavitas was the one who's slightly longer hair, and
Yes.
then you
Barnes is the Bob.
said Castro was
Barnes
the one
is
with the
the
shorter.
Oh, Castro. Sorry,
Two.
Barnes
Yeah.
is the tuba player. I apologize. Yeah, Castro was the one.
Sousaphone, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sousaphone. Right. Sorry.
And Castro is played by Gabrielle Ruiz, who also plays Talin, and she's
Talin.
fantastic.
snap.
Castro's a great character.
Yeah, I know.
Dan's going to push it.
Big
back.
time.
There we go. Okay,
Big time globbers.
that's right. That's your name, Dan Glovers.
Big time.
Big time. But yeah, so Ransom had that storyline, which was cool. And we did go into a little bit more detail about the Billup storyline, which is, again, the easily excitable engineer, a standard trope in Star Trek, but they got to have so much fun with the techno-babble. And, of course, his ensign had an Australian accent, which we don't get to hear a lot. We've heard it a couple times, and I think it was on Lower Decks that we've heard these an Australian accent. And techno-babble.
Charlotte Nickdow.
Yeah, Charlotte Nickdow, an Australian accent doing techno-babble is wonderful, and we should have more of that.
Well, their non-centrosymmetry disrupts the charged leptons and the isolinear pathways of the main deflector, which then...
Of course.
We have to decouple the deuterium conduits before the thermal blankets push the valve box into the adjustment coils.
And I'll deactivate the magnetic constrictors while you cycle the reactor conduits.
The reactor conduits. I like that. Reactor conduits. Fantastic. Do more of that, Star Trek. That's what we need. We like seeing different aliens. We like seeing different shades of skin, different cultural costumes and things like that.
I felt stuck out of phase like Geordie and Roe wandering.
Different types of English-speaking countries.
Yes, let's get some more different types of English accents going on. You know,
Strong and brave, wise and true. That's what makes us the Cerritos crew. Yeah.
Plenty of
Nothing would
American,
ever happen around here without the bridge crew.
various UK
Classic
accents.
Cerritos.
We need more Aussie accents. We need more New Zealand accents. New Zealand, they just flatten out the veils.
How
We
about
need some
South
of that.
African?
South African would be great. That's a tricky one to do because of the Dutch influence down there. Jamaican,
So?
if it's done properly, appropriately.
At a contest, doesn't this sound like someone's going like, "Gwa?"
So?
Like she just saw something surprising or shocking, like that came out of nowhere that confused her, and so she's like,
So?
she's like, "Gwa? Zo?"
Right.
But she's actually talking to her husband.
All right. So, yes. Yes. Okay, Dan. Yes, I agree.
Do you want to know what Freeman had on her pad for her schedule that day? She had from 9 to 9:30.
You better tell us right now.
I think this is the definition of a rhetorical question. Dan asked a question that he was not looking for an answer to.
Yes,
you ought to know.
Yes, one could assume that. But
Okay.
it was a long. It was
What did she have on her pad, Dan? What did she have on her pad?
It was the longest way I could think to say it, so I had time to get my shit in order.
Okay, got it.
From 9 to 9:30, she had a staff meeting, and we saw that.
And about her senior staff, not about a staff infection.
No,
No,
I don't think anyone.
Not much happened at that meeting. It just didn't. It was just.
Well,
a
didn't
thing.
she get like
They
a
high-fived.
like a?
Yeah, they high five.
Did she get like a Zertok paradox of something kind of parasite or something? Was it a parasite? What was the sickness Barnes got?
Oh yeah, I forget what they called it.
Yeah,
They give it a
I guess
name.
that was a debriefing.
Yeah, I didn't get the name of the.
She evolved and de-evolved.
Yeah,
at the same
she
time.
was psychic and cave
afraid
person.
of fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm gonna
So
figure
they
that.
imagined a candle.
Yeah, I didn't. It took me a minute.
It did take me a minute.
It took me. Yeah, I don't know why, but I didn't get that at first. It was. It felt silly. Okay, so staff meeting.
Staff meeting.
In the conference room that looks like TNG's conference room. 10, 11, they were at a bar.
10 till 11.
10 till 11, they were at a bar for Barnes's sousaphone recital. 11:30 to 12:30, they were in the multi-purpose room for the fertility event.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, with that guy.
It's a gross use of the multi-purpose room.
Yeah, it was pretty
Somebody
gross.
had to clean that shit up.
Yeah. 1300 to 1500, stage 6 was Winger Bingston Jr.'s one-man show.
Winger Bingston Jr.
And then
I can't wait till he has a kid.
I get that all the time.
The kid's gonna be Winger Bingston the third.
then 1530 to 1730. This is interesting. This is the only one that goes out of order. Every scheduled event begins with place, then event, place, then event. Stage 6, one-man show. From 1530 to 1730, it says meeting holodeck 3. It puts the location second instead of first. Instead, it should have said holodeck 3 meeting, but
That's
it says
a good
meeting
catch. That's a
holodeck.
good catch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess it's good they're ending this show. The quality's fucking slipping.
I know. I like that during the fertility event. It was like all weird. Like it was all like ambiguous because like everything about him was like a human.
Yeah.
They didn't even give his name and then on the like the
So congratulations, it's a life
It's
form.
a life form. Yeah. And she's
Life forms. Doot. You lovely little life forms. Doot.
and they
Data generations.
yeah. And then she was all like, I didn't know you were not a human, so. It's true because there's a lot of like human-looking non-humans and stuff.
Well, and again, we Dan, you did a good job of explicating what Captain Freeman's arc here was in this episode, where she was spending a lot of her time, sometimes seeming a little bit frustrated or tired, but sincerely appreciating her crew and supporting them, even if she wasn't super excited about whatever it was that she was supporting in particular, and how important that was to her. But what we haven't talked about as much is Shax's business, and I know it's pretty straightforward, but I just wanted to call out, like, it was hilarious, the idea of doing astral projection to fight your own demons.
Yeah.
That's just fucking funny.
Yeah, it was first Ghost Shax, and then there was a bunch of Cardassian. They were saying warriors, but then he was like, no, they're occupiers.
Yeah.
And they were all zombies. And then after he killed his ghost self turned into a zombie.
Yes.
It was all fucking weird.
It was great, multi-layered, and I like that he's both affected by it, right? Like, Shax is a tough guy, but they always show him, not always, but they frequently show him as having issues and concerns and PTSD, but he's also strong enough to deal with it, right? And I really like that combination of showing that this hyper tough person nevertheless can suffer, right? That's true to real life. Hyper tough people, no matter how strong you think they are, though, in fact, sometimes those are the people who suffer the most when they're dealing with things like PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. But I also like that, yes, he suffered from it, but he's also able to overcome it, right? So they're kind of like showing both sides of
and
it.
He kind of knows that
it's not an insurmountable thing, and I like having a hopeful message. It is one thing to show a character suffering, but it is nice when appropriate and done well. And I think they did it well here, showing that yes, you can. It's important to know people can suffer. It's also important to know that there are ways to fight, and he was able to fight through his own means. But then at the end, I thought it was really cute how Dr. Miglimo was like, had that little line about psychotherapy can help give you other tools in your fight against this thing, which was fun. And I guess there's no Scientologists on this writing crew.
Yo, people are always coming back to life.
That's a good
Shax exploded, and he's doing great.
All right. So, anything else about this episode? Otherwise, we can move along. To the next
it's
one.
called the Zertapathogen.
Zertapathogen.
And also, I just want to
like Zyrtec.
Yeah, I also want to mention that when Tana like went ham on that dude, that was violent.
Yeah,
that was hard to listen to.
Yeah. No. Good call. Yeah. No. Tana.
It's like.
I like how you're like, that was really upsetting and disturbing. Here, let me play it.
And then it was also upsetting was the fertility event.
Here we go. As
Now
I said earlier, the sound design on this show, and particularly this episode, is fantastic.
When you mix them together,
my God,
you get.
Here we go. Now, do you want to add that? Now, can you want to layer into that?
Must join with Vija.
Yeah, exactly.
Must join with Vija.
Exactly.
Must join with Vija. Must join with Vija. Must join with Vija. Must join with Vija. Must join with Vija.
Oops.
Must join with Vija. 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 Must join with Vija.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Yeah. No, that was very good.
Yeah.
And no,
I was fucking up because I was pressing them in the wrong order at first.
I think you're right, though, Dan. I don't think anyone was ever going to get bored of that.
Nope.
Okay. All right.
No.
Good work. Very good work on that episode. We've concluded our discussion of Upper Decks.
Wait, what? What?
Now we're transitioning to our discussion of Fissure Quest.
Oh, Fissure Quest.
Yeah.
Hologram. Okay.
You said holograms. Just sort of instinctually said holograms. You didn't even instinctually play the hologram clip. You just said holograms.
Hologram?
Holograms?
That's gotten to that point.
Yeah, well, now you got to play the clip.
Holograms.
Holograms?
There you go. Excellent.
Holograms.
Wait.
Holograms.
Holograms.
Hologram.
Holograms.
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 Hologram.
Holograms.
Indeed. Okay.
Wait. I didn't get to play the last one. Holograms.
Holograms.
There you go.
There we go.
Holograms.
Holograms.
We've now successfully.
We've done it now.
Successfully.
Now we've done it.
Transitioned.
Are we transitioning?
We're transitioning into
The next episode.
Our discussion of Fissure Quest.
Fissure Quest.
Go home, big guy.
Now, with Fissure Quest, we get another episode.
Okay, let's do it.
We get another episode.
You know, we could spend like less time on this week and then pack some of this episode into next week.
We could, but I think we might as well.
too.
I have my notes here, so we might as well talk about Fissure Quest. I'm sure we'll be talking about Fissure Quest a lot next week too, because it'll wrap into the conclusion.
Do you think we're gonna see like all the Bashir and people next week?
I don't know. I mean, I presume that we're going to see some sort of conclusion to what's going on with them, but maybe not.
Up!
Maybe not. Maybe the story is now completely shifted. No, like, let's back up a bit, right? So,
Okay.
beep, right? So, as we now
beep.
know, having watched this episode, we know that this is the first part of a two-part episode that is going to close down the series. So it's going to be a two-part series finale, and that it is going.
I love it.
Yes, and that it is going to wrap up the season-long arc related to these fissures that have opened up.
Ah, right, fissures.
And as I think we probably predicted along the way, although I don't think it's too complicated of a prediction if you've been watching Lower Decks, is that it turns out that these fissures are not being caused by a malevolent entity of some sort.
You're a depraved villain.
There doesn't appear to be maliciousness involved. It is a side effect of a different form of transportation that was developed by an alternate version of Lily Sloan with an alternate version of Zephram Cochrane.
That happened to my Riker, too.
Star Trek. They got Star Trek.
They got totally Star Trek. Now, there are some things that are a little bit tricky about this plot, and we can get into those later. But first, we want to go to what Dan's about to say. Dan was about to say something. He's reporting on the scene, and I would like to very much to hear what he's going to say.
Oh. Well,
okay, great. This is
I was just gonna. I need to put me on the spot.
I mean, normally you're Johnny on the spot when you're like, bibbly bobbly, I'm going to say all this shit. And like, I even know to default, I'll just start talking about eating poop if I can't think of anything. But
I'm pretty great.
But you can't talk about ripping balls
for the first time in fucking 268 episodes, you're like,
I'm okay. I'm okay.
I don't know.
Okay. What happened
It's okay.
to you, Dan?
Okay. I was just gonna add to what you were saying about like how
Why are you shaking your hands like this? You're freaking out. You're having a little anxiety attack. Be like Shax. Fight it off. Fight it off. Astral project.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I thought it was interesting. How they can't actually travel far distances.
Yeah.
They can travel across dimensions, but they can't travel across distances. And Boimler like is gatekeeping exploration by being all like, you can't even travel
that's a separate
far.
point. Yeah.
Well, no, but
it's a related point.
It's related. It's related in the sense that like it's interesting to think that they're both explorers, but in literally different different dimensional explorers because they go far and they go cross dimensional. And it's interesting.
You're saying there's more than two dimensions?
Yes. That I think it's interesting. It's like an interesting way of sort of looking at it, how they both have different perspectives as a role, as how they explore differently. I thought that was a really cool idea.
Totally,
and in fact, I wanted to ask you guys, what is your opinion, given the two philosophical positions presented here, one being from William Boimler, suggesting that exploring further distances in the same universe is more interesting, meeting different groups of people and learning about their culture, etc. Whereas Sloan provides a very convincing argument that she's mapping, as she put it, the possibilities for humanity.
Well, I think part of
what would you want to explore?
Well, I think part of Boimler's point was sort of it was sort of made as a result, I think, of the sort of commentary I think they were making on like all like the multiverse shit that goes on in all like shows and shit right now. It's like a big topic, and it's sort of like it's just a different it's like a reverse Picard or I don't know, Human Warp, and it's like
the Human Warp. It's like I don't know, Human Warp. Right? Just like the stupidest thing you could think of.
Yeah, and so I thought. So part of his hatred comes off of because of that, which is a joke on how like there's so much of that shit going around. But literally, what would I do? I don't know. I think like it would be cool to travel to different realities and shit. I'd get to see all sorts of different versions of myself. And now would it be okay to have sex with yourself? You know, those kind of questions would happen. And then like then you'd have to.
I like how you're not like. You're not like it's possible those types of things could come up. You're like those types of things will happen.
Yeah,
I mean, definitely happen.
I think
you're like as soon as this happens, I'm gonna be in a moral dilemma.
I think there would. I think
although I get the impression from your perspective, it's not that much of a dilemma.
Well, I think it would happen so much that they'd make a law against it. I'm pretty sure.
You think they'd make a law against having sex with your own like alternate versions of yourself?
Yeah, of course they would.
Why would they do that?
Because they're all Puritan.
Who's they?
The people who make laws, they're all Puritan.
Yeah, but the universe isn't all America.
No, okay. No. See, here's what it is.
You could have some Scandinavian universes.
This is why it would happen. We'd have laws in place about everything, blah blah blah. We don't take this situation into account until we discover transdimensional travel. And then we've got this new concept of like, wait, now people can have sex with themselves. And it's going to freak people out because they're so not used to this idea. They're like, what do we do? This is weird. I've never
think people
wait. They're say this is new. This is weird. I don't understand it. We should have a law against it. That's generally how shit like that works.
Do you think that
because it's new and different? This
law, let me just, for clarification purposes, do you think that the Puritan universal overlords that have put this law into place, would they apply the law equally across all alternatives or only same-sex alternatives? Are these homophobic lawmakers is what I'm getting
I don't think there is.
Or if it was a girl version, a la like Loki in the show Loki.
Because you could have a female.
You could have a female version of Dan called Daniela or Daniela Long.
Whoa! What in the what? Where am? How did
Danny.
you?
It'd be Daniela Short Clips. It would be hanging out with Danny Long.
Nice try!
What's the other one? Danny Globbers. But would you think that they would have a problem with that? Would it only be the homosexual? Are they homophobic or are they just against the idea of self-love?
I think it's just self-love. I don't think the sexuality comes into play at all. I don't think that's considered at all.
Well,
big time globbers.
We will see if they address this in next week's episode.
Because I think the sexuality, like whether it's like same sex or different sex, like that's not really what they're thinking about that freaks them out. What freaks them out is that it's like it's like yourself. It's like, that's crazy. Like you're having sex with yourself. Oh my God. A lot of people are against masturbation the churches. Church, but there are churches that are against masturbation.
Those types, they probably haven't even thought about it yet. Now you're putting it out there.
That's what I'm saying. It's
new.
Now
think about it.
And they don't know how to handle new things, and people are afraid of new things that they don't understand. So they would be afraid that it would somehow result in a bunch of like there would probably be. Do you think there's some kind of like if you had sex with the opposite sex version of yourself and made a baby? Do you think there's some weird sort of condition that baby would?
Well, it creates a hole in the universe.
Well,
yeah, there might be some kind of the baby would have whole universe holes all over its head.
The other thing is going to create a hole in the universe is if we do not take a break, because we're way past time to take a break.
Why do we want to take a break?
We want to take a break. Jesse's right. We want to. This is a segue out of this conversation because I don't want to. We have an unusually high listenership within the Vatican, and I don't want them to get the wrong idea and start thinking about writing some letters.
One of them papal bulls.
It's not a letter to the editor. It's like a letter to the Pope or something, a letter from the Pope to everybody else.
A papal bull.
Who says don't fuck your internet dimensional self.
That happened to my Riker too.
Yeah, we don't want to be dealing with that. So
because it's fun.
We'll go on break, and then when we get back, we will conclude our discussion.
Maybe take a break since we're on a break.
Fissure Quest, and talk a little bit about what's coming next week. All right, we will be right back.
Kim Crew, roll out.
All right, we are back. We have returned.
Well, we better hurry then. Your schedule is pretty full.
Indeed.
Shit.
Okay.
Commander, are you busy?
Are you busy? Again, you're playing stuff from the previous episode.
You got to get with the program.
Hey, what's up, my man?
Is that better?
I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know.
Slightly better.
All right.
Yeah, keep it up.
So there was there was like an A plot, there was like a B plot, there was a C plot, there was a D plot, and
Okay,
there was an
D
wait,
plot,
I'm not done.
Was it a D plot?
I'm not done speaking.
Right.
There was a D plot and there was an introduction to an E plot.
These nuts.
Speaking of Tim Robinson, there was like that. Do you ever see that Z shirt sketch on Saturday Night Live?
Yeah.
It's like, is it an A shirt? Is it a B shirt? Is it a C? Okay, but
the audience doesn't know about Tim because we were talking about Tim Robinson over the break.
Oh, right.
We were talking about the
I forget
the tables
how time
sketch.
and recording works.
Yeah.
For all I know,
I know it's mind blowing.
For all I know, they're listening to us right this second. You know.
Well,
Right.
maybe that'll be a feature we open up to our Patreon.
That's what I
members
always think.
at some point in the
I'm
future.
doing it.
If you pay us $10,000 a month,
Live from
you can
Patrick's basement.
Yes, you can just hang out with us in the basement. You can be one of those people that sits in the background and is like.
I love it.
Don't you think it'd be good if we had some of those? Is that something that our podcast is lacking? Is that the next evolution
might
of the
be
podcast?
cool.
Oh, no way.
Maybe starting in episode 300, we can just have a couple people in the background like.
Just put a mic over there.
Yeah, well, I mean, even I like the sycophantic laughter from off mic. You know, there's some.
Yeah, that works too.
Oh, Patrick, that's so funny. Good, and that was loud enough to cover up most of Jesse's sneezes.
I know he took that as a
There's
good
few more.
opportunity to sneeze.
Jesse's
keep it up.
He's so far from the microphone. But you
How
can
many
still hear it.
sneezes was that?
Well, that's a thing that Jesse does, right?
I don't care.
Jesse's a multi-sneezer. Hey,
Like
you
7 or 8.
You out there in the audience, if any of you are multi-sneezers, write us in at feedback at Jesus. Write us in at feedback at itsgotstartrek.com. With the subject line.
I do the same for you.
The subject line multi-sneezer, and let us know if you're a multi-sneezer. Jesse's definitely a multi-sneezer. I'm an
You're
occasional
just,
multi-sneezer.
A geezer.
Darling, I haven't thought about it at all.
Indeed. Okay, well.
What I was saying is, so there were the different plots. I listed the letters.
Now you've listed the letters, and now you have to assign a plot to each letter.
The first one is the Rifting Through Rifts plot.
All right. Okay. I was like, why is Dan pausing for a compliment?
I'm
No.
waiting for someone to compliment.
Sneeze.
That was a good observation, Dan.
No, I mean, it really, for a moment struck me that you were like, you know what? I'm going to wait.
I'm going to milk this one for all it's worth.
I said rifting on rifts.
Yeah, that was a funny thing.
And that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is an astute simile, Mr. Kim.
Jesse is previewing some of our ASMR, future ASMR. This
keep it up.
This is the category of sickly ASMR, where you just get a bunch of like coughing.
Hey, come on, you're sparking my Raptogino. Ah, don't do that.
Okay, so what was it? A plot was rifting on rifts.
Yeah, they were just going through the rifts, doing the rift thing.
Totally.
Then the B plot was Garrick and Bashir figuring out whose reality to live in.
Yes.
I like that dynamic because, Garrick's totally in charge of that relationship, but it's just like they're like real dynamic in DS9. He's like a pest with his words or something.
He's a pest with his words.
I don't know how else to say it, but
well, I'm sure you'll think of. We have about 25 minutes left in this podcast.
Okay.
I think
Well, like
at some
how
point
he said, like,
in that you will.
It was fun to argue.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was still talking about how it was fun to argue with him, and Bashir, was like getting all exasperated with him the whole time.
Yeah.
But I like how Bashir made him sleep on the floor, and so Bashir could get to bed, and then he just
And
disappeared.
Bashir's a hologram.
And he just disappeared right
Yeah.
there.
No, all the hologram jokes with it were great. But we'll get back to that. Let's keep going down the list.
Okay.
Let's go down the list, and then we can go into more detail on each of those.
Okay. Then there's Harry Kim's dilemma with themselves and the dangers.
That's a lot of Harry
dangers of two-pipped Kim. By the way, I want to mention that at the beginning of the episode, we see when two-pipped Kim goes into the room with all the other Kims. At first, there's 8 of them, but at the end of the episode, when they all defect to the ship, actually the other Kims got tricked into defecting.
Yes.
Yeah.
There were 7 of them. So there was including two-pipped Kim. There was 9 in the first scene in the first
so there's
room
a missing
scene,
Kim.
and there was 8 at the end. Yeah, there's a missing Kim.
I will say though,
An errant Harry.
in both of those,
an errant Harry. Indeed.
in both of those scenes,
Kim.
there's no specific reason to believe that every single Kim is accounted for because they said there were Kims.
Not
all
every
over.
Kim was accounted
They
for.
said they implied there were Kims all over the ship, right? So good observation, but probably we can just assume that one of those Kims was moving around. Maybe they were in the Sonic bathroom.
What a surprise! Another Harry Kim.
Because I've always wondered, they have a Sonic shower. Does that mean they have access to a Sonic bidet?
Ooh.
Do you think they have Sonic French fries?
Buzz your butt right off.
Do you think that in Australia they ever say bidet, mate?
I'm Harry Kim.
How come there was only one clarinet? You'd think they'd have like A couple of Harry
Yeah, but
Kims,
that's-
they'd be playing like clarinet quartets and shit.
Well, there was one. Either the same Kim held the same clarinet the whole time, or they were passing it around. But I like how it was like even in jail, like they had the clarinet
instead of a harmonica.
You know, and one thing when I was naming my sound files that I should have done, but I didn't really want to put in the effort. I usually tried it. Like I put a lot of effort into naming like Karavitas and Moxie and Fedorov last episode, and I couldn't find Castro. But
it was in the caption.
As I was doing this halfway through this, I should have differentiated between two-pipped Kim and the Kims, but I didn't.
Interesting.
I didn't do that. But okay, so there's that.
You should have differentiated between all the individual
Lieutenant
Kims.
Harry.
That would be crazy.
Clarinet Kim, and then Goofy.
We don't know
Kim.
if Clarinet Kim is the same Kim though.
You can
He
put
has
it
like-
in
had like a
parentheses,
headband.
maybe.
I think we can make that assumption just as much as we can make the assumption that they miscounted
I
the
wouldn't
number.
make the assumption.
Wait, I'm not done. I'm saying what I'm saying. We we can make that assumption the same as we can make the assumption that they put the wrong amount of Kims in the beginning and the end. That there was a continuity error there because there was 9 total at the beginning and 8 total at the
To me,
end.
it's a different thing because, there's a very good critique. Where I would say the difference is in this case, in my perspective, is that it would not be a categorization for a character, but rather a categorization for the utility or the output of the character, which would be the clarinet playing. Because in each case, the clarinet Kim would be playing the clarinet, and that's what you would be playing is the tape of them playing the clarinet.
Your anger masks the fear that I am correct. Perhaps you should moderate your eating habits.
Clarinet Kim
You've been
like
saving
had
that
some
one.
kind of headgear on, right? He had some kind of funny like headband or something. So remember that? Does anybody remember that Clarinet
I
Kim?
don't remember that.
Okay,
no.
well, goddamn you.
Well, that T'Pol clip brings me to. By the way, T'Pol, I love how smug, how good at being smug she is.
Jolene Blaylock, it's so wonderful to have her back. I know that she
Yeah.
was, I think, reluctant to come back to Star Trek for a
Oh,
little
was
while.
she?
Well, I think there was on any of the Rick Berman series. Is the
Oh, she had problems with that?
The
Yeah.
various women often did not have great experiences.
It was funny to have like an alternate mariner.
Yes.
who was slightly different.
Oh, but we haven't gotten to that yet.
Yeah.
Dan's going down his
You're
list.
right.
Yeah.
Going on the list.
T'Pol is good at being T'Pol. We'll
Yeah,
get,
and
we'll
like-
get back to that.
Yeah, like when Curzon said,
Oh, you'd love to rub that in my face, wouldn't you, Vulcan?
and she goes,
I would not.
because it's like, yeah, she's
Yeah,
a Vulcan.
yeah, I
she,
know,
doesn't- she
right.
wouldn't. But that's what makes it worse.
Yeah.
Is the fact
Right.
that not only is it perfectly, it's worse because she's talking from a purely logical perspective, so it's like more true. But also secretly, she really does get.
So which plot is the T'Pol plot?
So secretly, she really does get enjoyment
You got
from
to
it.
give us our letters. We
I
gotta
know.
riff to
I'm
riff A.
leading into that. I'm leading into that.
I know, but it's a recap. A
I
is
know.
rifting,
I know,
rift
but
to
I was
rifts.
segueing from that into what we were talking
Okay,
about.
and B is what? Remind us again. B is
Garrick and Bashir figuring out whose reality to live in.
C is
Harry Kim's dilemma with himself.
Great. D
Wait,
is
you won't even let me finish fucking. God, slow down.
all right.
Okay, I was finishing my point to get to my next one.
Okay.
Harry Kim's dilemma with himself and the danger of two-pipped Kim.
Okay.
D is the contentious but ultimately caring relationship between T'Pol and Curzon.
Okay.
Interestingly, Curzon is the only voice that's not actually played by the original
Yes.
actor.
Which I personally, and we'll get to it. We don't have to talk about it now. Also makes me think it's the weakest part of the episode. All right, next.
Then at the end, which is really second part of A, it's the introduction to the other side of rifting with riffs. So, so you could argue that's part of the same plot, but it's the scenery changed so drastically, and the characters in the scenery changed so drastically that I consider that
because
kind of
now we're
another
dealing
part.
with Lily Sloan and her people, and then eventually at the end, lower
Well,
deckers.
are
that
we
know.
dealing? Are we dealing with Lily Sloan?
No, I was trying to clarify what did you mean by the other plot, because we don't know, like the rifting
Because
with rifters is rifting, but then but it's from one side. When you said the other side, I thought maybe you meant the Lily Sloan people, because then they come across they come across the Lily Sloan people. You're considering that all part of the A plot, and then you're saying that the lower deckers at the end having to figure out how to solve this is the beginning.
Yes,
it's an E plot, but it's going to be the A. It's going to be the A plot of the next episode.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Good. Now, which one would you like to discuss in more detail in the waning minutes of the show?
Well, I get. Okay. Let's see. Garrick and Bashir. Is there anything to say about that?
It's great.
It's great. It's awesome.
I also thought that they did some of the most accurate, or no, that's not the. I don't know what the right term is, but like it took me back the most. Andrew Robinson in particular playing Garrick, spot on. Bashir, most of his lines spot on. And I bring this up because when you have the characters come back, a lot of these people are, 10, 20, 30, 40 years older than
I know how you operate, Elam Garak.
But they were playing the characters at this age, and you can tell in some cases, right? Like with Brent Spiner in Purple Data.
Yeah, you can.
It's a little different. I think Harry Kim. It's very interesting in some of the lines. He kind of doesn't sound like Harry Kim, But in others, he does. So Garrett Wang, I think, did a very good job in this episode, but is a little inconsistent. Andrew Robinson was 100% spot on.
Old habits die hard.
He just sounded like Garrett. And Bashir, most of his lines did. A few of them sounded a little like older.
What
Bashir.
what about this?
Photonic beings don't really benefit from massage. Massage.
That was one of the ones I thought sounded less Bashiri and more Alexander Siddiggy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And Andrew Robinson, I just recently read his book that came out a number of years ago, A Stitch in Time.
I don't care.
Highly recommended. It came highly recommended. I meant to read it for years. I just had never gotten around to it.
I know how you operate, Elam Garak.
People should get it, but I've also, after reading it, and I did read it in the traditional format using,
in the biblical sense?
No, I meant with runes. You look at the runes and your eye translates them into words. The runes we call the alphabet.
Chief O'Brien.
Chief O'Brien?
I love the story. The story was fantastic.
Chief O'Brien.
The story was fantastic. Good. We have another one for our collection.
Trip Tucker. Where would I stay?
Stitch in Time is great.
Trip Tucker.
But I heard that A Stitch in Time is even better when you get the audiobook because it's Andrew Robinson reading it in character as Garrick.
Oh, and that's weird. That's crazy.
It's supposedly just brilliant. So I'm gonna give it some time since I just finished reading it, but then I'm gonna get the audiobook of that. So anyway, that part of that story, it was cute
because it's fun,
and I like how they were able to give us what I don't know what the portmanteau of Garrick and Bashir is. Garir.
Barek.
Bashak. I took an oath to do no harm.
Whatever the slash fiction is for Garrick and Bashir, it was nice to get to finally see that on screen.
I know how you operate, Elam Garak.
Now that's a good. That sounded like Bashir. That sounded like.
I really don't care where we end up as long as we're together.
Yes.
No, it's not.
And of course,
what? Then why have we been arguing? Because it's fun. No, it's not.
And we got to see Garrick help save the day, which was cool.
Yeah.
So that was the
Pretty
B.
badass.
That was the B story.
The B story. Okay, C story. Harry Kim. I like this idea that there's a good reason why Harry Kim never got promotion because when he does, it all goes to his head and becomes a psychopath.
Complete asshole.
Yeah, total piece of shit.
That guy got all the way up to lieutenant.
He did mainly go bad once he saw relative to the rest of the universe is what the deal was. But I do like that interpretation. I also really appreciate that when they did this story. Yes, he got promoted, but he's only two-pipped, Harry.
Right.
Given the time frame, you'd presume he might be a commander, or even a captain.
He's only gone up 2 ranks.
Exactly. He's barely gone up at all. So that's kind of hilarious as well.
Yeah.
Anything else about the Harry Kim gag? It was a good gag. I did enjoy that.
The ship we're chasing is ripping open the bubbles.
I don't know why I like that line. That's a good line.
You can play it again.
The ship we're chasing is ripping open the bubbles.
Just to clarify,
open the bubbles.
That's about the A plot. So
I kind of like. I've heard. I mean, I feel like I've heard that description of multiple universes before, where it's like just these membranes sort of bumping into each other.
Sure, why not?
How'd you feel about the whole description of why this was happening? So Mariner said that the reason that the second hole was being created was Mariner discovered. Who, by the way, Mariner, I like that she was like. On the one hand, she was opposite of Mariner because she wasn't into danger. She'd never been to jail, and she was all in engineering. Yeah. But then when Boimler he said something nice to her, or I can't remember, or whatever, and then she goes like,
"Yeah, I'm pretty great."
So she still has that same Mariner attitude. So that was interesting.
And actually, my comment on this A plot and frankly on the episode in general, what was brilliant about this alternate concept is that they're able to take these characters and have them behave in ways that make sense with their previous characterization. And what's brilliant about this particular episode is these aren't even the normal versions. These are alternate versions, including William Boimler, but especially the Mariner. The Mariner engineering thing is the perfect example of exactly like you said, Dan. It makes perfect sense that with a slightly different environment, Mariner would have gone in the direction of being a super nerdy engineer, but in a Mariner way. She's not a Rutherford style engineer. She's not a Billups style engineer. She is a Mariner style.
Oh, speaking of people who are the same and different, it was funny because like Garrick was talking about, you overhear him saying that in another universe, he's like, he was a tailor. He's like,
He's
as
like
if
in
that
some
was,
universes, I'm a tailor.
yeah, like as if that was surprising, where he's a doctor in this one. But Bashir is a hologram.
And he's based off of an actual Bashir.
That's Indirackable. That's Indirackable.
Just like our Bashir.
And is a doctor.
Yes.
And so Bashir, and Garrick is also in this dimension. He's, still like a spy kind of guy, shady character, because he's able to,
spy guy.
He's spy games. He's able to sneak up to people and do the thing, like when he was like
Old habits die hard.
I like the line was, I am a doctor, Julian, but not just. Because Julian's like, you're just a doctor.
Right.
That was a very Garrick line, and it was presented in a Garrick way.
So it's interesting that Garrick in different realities are different, but like Bashir is just the same person throughout all, and so they like complement each other or something.
Do.
I don't know. They really do. But it was really fucking getting confusing because when Mariner, who is a different Mariner that we've never even seen before, was talking about how Troy got stranded on a dimension, and then William Boimler was saying like, William, who's
He's a transporter
clone.
So same dimension.
Oh, he's a transporter clone of Boimler, and he says that happened to my Riker too. But what happened to William is the same thing that happened to Thomas.
Yes.
Right.
So it's like it's getting everything all fucking. It all makes sense.
Wild,
but
brother.
it
is wild.
Takes my brain a minute. But I was saying, what did you guys feel about the Mariner discovered, because they opened these rifts, and when one rift opened, another one, because of conservation of energy. When you open one rift, that presumes that energy goes one way into another dimension, so it has to come back in a different hole. Yeah. Why can't they just swirl around the same hole?
I'll tell you what I liked and what I didn't like.
Well, do you have an answer to what I said there?
He's not going to.
No.
Yeah, that's what I feel.
What I was just stating, those were words I was using to preface my response to.
Why would you do this to your friends?
To your question. It's all just for light entertainment, Dan. That's what we do. Weekend wake up.
Must you do that on the bridge?
Light entertainment. No, what I'm trying to say is I liked the verbal description. The barely even technobabble description.
Because it had some logic to it.
There appeared to be some logic. What I didn't like so much was the illustration didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
It seemed to me like it should be like going in opposite direction. Like if you're putting something into one universe, that something needs to come back into the original universe.
Yeah, that was weird.
It looked like they were both going.
Right.
I think either I'm not understanding the example, or maybe they didn't explain it quite right visually. The verbal description made sense to me.
So
it placated my need to have some sort of justification for the sci-fi.
Yeah, that part made sense, but like I was wondering, like, I don't know why opening one hole would require. I get the idea they're saying, because one's entering, it's got to leave somewhere else. But why can't it enter and exit the same hole? Are they one way?
Well, that's what I was saying is I get the idea that if you're like got two universes, you're kind of opening two holes. So as a result, since you're like moving into one universe, you're adding your chunk of stuff to this other dimension.
Right. So it has to.
So your dimension is losing something.
No, I know that's
something. But that's why I'm saying it should be a different hole. They're saying a different hole opens up, but the direction was wrong. I'm like, I get it.
Are you saying wrong hole?
A totally different hole opens up, and then the same amount goes through.
And I'm saying,
but they had the arrows going the wrong way.
I think I'm saying the same thing too, in the sense that I get what they're saying. Yes, one energy leaves one universe and it has to come out another. My point was not about which direction they were going. My point was like, when the ship goes into the other dimension and loses energy, why can't the energy be coming back in at the same hole? Why does it require a second hole for the energy to come back in?
Because
it's a two-way hole.
It's better for the story, and I'm fine with that.
By the way,
it's perfectly reasonable to me that it would not happen in the same place.
By the way, this episode is really cinematic. Like the fucking graphics and all, like on the fucking
totally
on the like the part when like this part. Like that was awesome scale. That's the kind of scale I like to see, where it's like there's just the whole giant shot.
Two different rifts, and they're floating through some sort of like purple business,
spanning however many fucking millions of miles. And I also like the idea when she was talking about like in some realities, like ships are the size of continents.
I love it.
Yeah, and like I really want to be on a ship the size of a continent.
Totally.
That like satisfies my need for.
But they got a killer buffet.
Oh, yeah, totally. But the second, what I want to mention real quick is the second part. This part was making less sense to me. Mariner says, every rift they open creates a huge influx of radial tachyons. But if we recreated those levels first, William says,
this boy is full of words.
It would force their next rift to open right here. So basically they're saying if they shoot at the thing, it would weaken it and force the hole to open in their location is somewhere. That part seemed like kind of nonsense to me.
It was, again, to me, it was a perfectly acceptable made up technobabble that was saying, like, it's kind of like if you've got say you've got a big thing of fabric, right, and you got a bunch of shit being thrown at the fabric.
I guess if you weaken it, it'll come through.
If you weaken it a little bit, you force it to go one way instead. You're making your own hole, kind of.
Okay, did you then? This is a separate part.
We're talking a lot about holes on this podcast.
This episode was all about riffs. And later in the episode, they're talking about they use some gravitational turbulence to go really fast. That was also weird too, because Mariner's like, the Beagle's creating waves of gravitational turbulence, and then William was like, and that's a good thing. And then she goes, it means mass matters. If I can increase the gravity around the warp port, it'll be a tachyon shield, and we can go as fast as you want. I don't think it was almost an explanation there. Somehow they were using gravity to go really fast.
This episode has a lot of Voyager style technobabble where it's just like we're supposed to hear it and accept it.
Yeah, but like this description almost sounded like it was going to make sense, and then it just didn't. I don't know.
Yeah, so, I give him credit for making it almost make sense.
I mean, because it's not like this.
Well, their non-centrosymmetry disrupts the charged leptons and the isolinear pathways of the main deflector, which then...
Because that makes no attempt at sounding like anything. Anyway, so yeah. Okay, so do we have anything to say? Do you want to talk about the contentious but ultimately caring relationship between T'Pol and Curzon?
I was going to say something about the William Boimler.
Do it.
Good.
Look, when you last see William Boimler, it looks like something sinister is afoot. Like he's gonna do something. They're gonna, do some kind of black ops or something.
Activate the soliton beam.
Something evil, but like it turns out he's doing some kind of like time cop kind of thing.
Section 31 time cop stuff.
But like he's all like jaded now.
Yeah.
And he kind of reminded me a lot of the captain in Picard of the captain of the Titan.
Oh, in the last season.
He's got like he's all like unshaven and just like weary and like just like like
yeah. I like he had all that stubble.
Yeah.
But he had more of a professional look, like the way he like folded his legs and was relaxing that shit.
More better haircut.
More better haircut.
Still Boimler to the max.
But it was more better.
It was more better. The boy, William Boimler. I am very interested. I hadn't even really thought about it, Dan, until you mentioned it earlier. I am interested to know whether or not we'll see that group again, because there's no reason to say we won't. They might. They presumably have the capability of at least William coming back to the normal dimension at some point. But who knows? Maybe not. We'll see.
Who knows?
It would be fine if we didn't. I think it would be interesting. Whatever we're going to see next week, I'm sure will be interesting. But for the characters that
don't
are
like it, then the hell with it.
That are trapped there. You mentioned the T'Pol and Curzon.
See, so like I like the idea of these two friends that always give each other shit, but ultimately they love each other. But like it was just kind of a weird choice. Like why T'Pol and why Curzon?
Yeah, because there's no pre-existing version of that,
right?
And they didn't really explain in the plot why these people are from vastly different time periods, right? So all this fissure stuff seems to be happening more recently. And I know we can't always think about time in a linear fashion when it comes to these alternate universes.
Not when you're thinking in the fourth dimension.
But we see Lily Sloan.
I knew, like when I saw her, I was like, who's that? I know that.
Alfred Woodward playing.
And they've got
Lily Sloan.
They got Enterprise style uniforms.
Yeah, and then they have T'Pol, and then they have so they're pulling characters from.
Boys, I think that's T'Pol.
And the Harry Kims, it's like, what time period are the Harry Kims from? Are they
8 or 9 Harry Kims?
Are they all from the present day or not? Probably not, right? So anyway, and
Massage.
How old is T'Pol? Because she's obviously older than what she was on Enterprise, because she was married to Trip Tucker III.
That's a different T'Pol
For 63 years.
I don't get it.
But she
Trip Tucker.
She didn't look like a super old Vulcan either. So I don't know. There was some confusing stuff there. But I love the T'Pol bit. Like T'Pol, Jolene Blaylock, I thought was great.
I thought she did a really good job.
I personally wasn't super into the Curzon bit for a couple of reasons. First of all, Curzon, like when he died, he was like a super old dude. And that was like 10 years before or more than that, than before this episode in the going about the years, right? So like that's already, it's like, okay, right? Like Curzon's still like, okay, you can buy it. It's an alternate universe. But then like, we know a little bit about Curzon. We know he was a bit of a rascal and a scoundrel. This Curzon came off very Shaxy to me. It was sort of like filling the Shaxness.
I mean,
it was played by the same actor, you know?
When he was swinging that batleth around at the beginning, I was like, okay, when's the batleth scene going to happen?
Yeah.
And it did. I'm glad it did since they introduced it. But it was kind of
Chekhov's batleth.
It was like pretty predictable though.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that the character wasn't sufficiently differentiated
Yeah.
from your stock brave warrior kind of guy. And again, we know Curzon he was hanging out with Klingons, so it totally makes sense that he was using a battle.
Do you think
it's nothing was wrong with that? It was like, because of all the other legacy characters were played by the actual actors and stuff, like it was just this extra character that I didn't fully buy into.
Do you think Connor Trinneer is annoyed that they killed him off because then it makes it harder for him to come back in later things? They could have made him from his alternate dimension in this. Why didn't they? Should have brought back fucking Trip Tucker.
Yeah, that's a complaint. It's a potential complaint for this episode. Maybe he'll come back in the next one.
Well, she did say she was married to him, so maybe he's.
Well, that's the thing,
also
is
dead in this one.
Oh yeah.
Well, and
Big Starfleet nerd is an accurate description.
Do you is Archer really a big Starfleet nerd?
Yeah, I think he's
some kind of big nerd.
He's sort of he didn't invent.
Have they mentioned polo before? They must have mentioned water polo, on lower decks.
Yes, I'm sure they've mentioned water polo.
Maybe with them whales
in or outside of
down in
the
the bilge.
context of Archer, loving water polo. I still laugh my ass off every time we watch Enterprise, and it's like, this guy's all into water polo. They were like, what are people going to be into in the future? They won't be into football or baseball. They'll be into water polo.
I know sarcasm when I hear it.
Yeah. And then Enterprise eventually was like, nobody else is into water polo. Only Archer is. He's single-handedly keeping the sport alive.
Water polo of all things. Did they just pick that because it was like in the future?
Everybody
People
else
like
is
water
into
polo.
synchronized swimming.
Yeah, they just needed to come up with something that was like weird, I guess.
What do you guys feel about like T'Pol becoming like a mind host to the Dax symbiont?
That's cool.
That was a weird take on that whole thing.
neato.
She was like, too much Katra.
Yeah, because it's like 7 or 8 lives.
Yeah, right. All in her brain. But that was an interesting take on the whole symbiont.
Yeah, no,
totally.
I thought that was cool. I thought all the spaceship battles and chases were fun. The Anaximander was the name of the.
Do you notice they were eating ramen and sushi? Like in the Cerritos, they eat like, taco salads and taco salads.
Yeah, everything's all Tex-Mex style food.
Yeah,
in the
right.
Cerritos, so this was all Asian inspired food.
Right, but like you once suggested, Patrick, that it was Tex-Mex because and it goes along with the name Cerritos. But
well, Cerritos is like anything
California.
California. Granted, we did say Tex-Mex as opposed to California.
No, but my point I'm getting at.
Same difference.
My point I'm getting at is this ship was called the Anaximander, who was like some kind of philosopher.
Yeah, or a hilarious salamander.
Either way, it has nothing to do with like Asian culture.
Yeah.
So
Maybe it was just ramen day.
Because isn't that some sort of like Greek dude or something?
Maybe it was just the ramen day on the replicator.
Anaximander is a philosopher.
Like a Greek philosopher?
When Anaximander looked at this heaven, he imagined for the first time in history space.
Okay.
Any bits and bobs, odds and ends? Fine, because I think we talked about all the main plot lines, right? And
yeah,
where they all ended up and concluded. Yeah. It was a really cool episode. Yeah. I've enjoyed this season where we haven't been entirely sure what's going on, but we're like, okay, these fissures, what's going on? And people start thinking of stuff, and then it's like, oh, okay, this is where it's going. This is pretty cool.
It's a fun little arc.
I liked that bog planet. I like those weird looking buildings. Yeah. They had these were those bridges going between like these big
there's something like
arcologies. Were those arcologies?
Ooh, I love the term arcology. What's that, SimCity 2000?
Yeah, exactly.
Arcology.
We got to be building some of those.
What is an arcology?
It's a giant building where like you have cities live in.
It was posed, I think, in the 1960s.
Like
it was suggested by a particular architect to be where you put like 200,000-300,000 people in a single building, but it's got a whole community and it's like all self-contained.
Do you think we're gonna have?
Badass,
do you think we're gonna have? Do you think in 100,000 years we'll have arcologies and Dyson spheres?
I hope so.
Well, maybe arcologies. We probably won't have a Dyson sphere, but maybe a Dyson swarm. Dyson Swarm's more doable.
Well, you can't maintain a fifth dimension without subspace gluons.
Well, that goes without saying.
Unrecognized what is it like?
Gluons.
We would be remiss if we didn't mention the offhand line about where the Harry Kims were chatting and one of them was like, "What did you do with your Tuvix?"
Oh yeah, right.
That's right.
Everyone's got a Tuvix. Like that unlikely scenario happened in every fucking galaxy.
Right. With different results.
Fucking hilarious. That's probably my favorite line of the whole episode. But it was great because in classic Lower Decks fashion, it's hilarious. It's good characterization. We didn't see a lot of our main characters, but we got to see these interesting takes on them. Yeah. And the story was interesting. I mean, it was just like an interesting story, even though
like Boimler looks super tasked the whole episode.
Yes, and I like to see him learn that, you know what, maybe there's some other things out there, and again that it's kind of Miyazaki style. The villain is not a villain. It's a misunderstanding based off of circumstance. Kind
Star
of
Trek.
I would think that ship, the Beagle, like I feel like ships with moving parts that large would be prone to like damage easily, like breaking
This one-
down.
and this one appeared to be. So
yeah, well there you go.
Broke the fuck down.
It had no shields.
Don't they have problems? What's that? It's called the Osprey. What's that plane? The Osprey.
The Osprey,
It
yeah.
like it like goes like the
Yeah.
it has blades.
Harrier.
It has
No, the
blades.
Osprey.
It has blades to make it on either side to make it float like a helicopter. But then they can move sideways to go forward.
And then it stings.
I think they break
sticks
a lot
out that thing so it can sting like a bee.
Yes, exactly. Why did Mariner give that Quopa a Vulcan?
It can break a glass.
Why did Mariner give that Quopa a Vulcan salute?
I think she was about to say "live long and like bog spur" or something, some sort of punk. Because she was talking about how bogs are awesome, and then she's like, "Live long and bog spur."
See, I would have laughed if they had gotten that far, but since they didn't, I would have never gotten that.
Yeah.
So I think they fucked that joke if they were actually going for that.
They fucked that joke.
They fucked it right in it.
Oh, I think when Boimler assertively bangs on the table and like Mariner's all like get scared, she's like, "Don't do that."
It was good. And then, of course, at the end with Mariner, when the great joke of William Boimler saying, "As long as he doesn't freak out," and then we not only see our Boimler, Brad Boimler, bearded Brad Boimler,
Fully
freak out.
bearded.
Not only do we see him freak out, we just,
style.
as the credits start rolling, we hear just a bunch of stuff just smashing and breaking. Like, what the fuck is he doing?
We're all gonna
At least they aren't trying to drink our bones.
Indeed,
I like
they
that
are.
line too.
Anyway, we're well over time. So
okay.
what final
Smell
things
you
worth
later.
saying? 'Cause we will be talking more about this next week as we conclude this episode.
Let's see. Nobody knows what Ops does. That was a Harry Kim line. Also, I want to mention that Curzon was getting all annoyed at to Paul when he was eating. He's like, "Let me fucking eat in peace." And I can really relate to that because when I worked at a restaurant, sometimes like I'd be eating and someone would be being a jackass or something directly at me, and I'm like, "Motherfucker, I have to put up with your shit all day. I'm eating."
It's really not cool to mess with somebody when they're eating.
Yeah, I'm eating. Leave me the fuck alone while I'm eating.
Were
It's
you
like my
eating
time.
the leftovers of one of your customers?
No, it was family meal.
Man.
Family meal.
That's what a lot of restaurants have family meal where the kitchen will make a big vat of casserole, something or whatever. And then the workers eat before the shift. Not all restaurants do that, but some of them do.
The more you know.
Just the best ones.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
That was a funny way to end the episode.
All right. Thanks.
Do we have anything?
I like these
Star
anecdotes.
Trek.
Nothing else to report. I'm sure we'll have some emails, voicemails, all that other stuff next week. We've got a little bit more time for that stuff.
Last thing I will mention. It is Boimler was supposed to be being all like noble and shit by sending it into his because he trusted his friends across galaxies or whatever. But it seems like
debatable.
Yeah, it seems like being like William Boimler's being like connected with him in any way is a liability.
Yeah.
I just say, I think that was a fucked up thing for him to do, and Mariner agreed. Okay.
We'll see how they resolve this next week. And so, yes, as for next week, we will be discussing the final episode, which is called, I think it's called The New Next Generation, something along those lines. Sadly, it will be the final episode, not only of the season, but of the series.
No, it's not!
It is the series finale of Lower
No!
Decks.
No!
The sneeze finale.
Yeah, it's sad that it's ending.
No!
No!
No way.
No way.
It's awesome we got what we got. And I'm
Got
sure
what
it's
you
not
got.
the last we've seen of these characters. I do believe they will be popping up from time to time in
There could be crossover.
What?
things.
other
Boims,
formats.
no!
But in the meantime, if you would like to get in
In the
contact with us,
meantime.
Strange New World.
we will have much more time to interact with you all on next week's episode, since we'll be only covering the last episode. Write us an email. Write us your thoughts about the season, about the future of these characters, whatever you like. Write us at feedback@itsgotstartrek.com. You can. Let me just repeat that. That's feedback@itsgotstartrek.com.
That was a little louder than I thought it was going to be.
You can also get us on social media. Check us out, Blue Sky, wherever else you're at. But yeah, Blue Sky, come on, that's where everyone's hanging out.
Check this out.
Oh, pulling the hologram card.
Holograms?
Thought you could use a holographic hand.
Indeed. Blue Sky.
Are they from the same reality?
Our future home
Just search for
reality is still
It's-
up in the air.
It's
Wait,
got Star Trek.
What makes you think we'll be living in your reality?
Why would someone want to destroy reality?
Yes,
Worse
Dan
than
has lots of
destroying all
sound effects.
realities?
As we
You
know.
do know I'll follow you to any reality.
Dan's demonstrating that he has all these sound effects.
But
for
those
your
were all
listeners.
related. They all said reality.
I know. It's very good. Very funny.
It took time.
Feedback at itsgotstartrek.com, at itsgotstartrek on the social media, Facebook,
You don't
YouTube,
deserve to come with me.
all that stuff. And if you'd like to send us a voicemail, you can go do that at itsgotstartrek.com/record. We'd love to hear from you. Let's have some conversation next week as we
Trap is set.
conclude,
Let's see if this works.
conclude our coverage. We've covered each and every season. You can go back and listen to all our
Each
previous
and
coverage of
every one.
Lower Decks. You can go to the website and just click on the Lower Decks in the menu, and that will bring
I hate this part!
all of our Lower Decks episodes.
It's not fair.
But then afterwards, we'll go back to just bouncing around the Star Trek
Yeah.
universe, discussing all sorts of stuff, and we'd love your input for
Well, we're just fooling around.
what you'd like us to
Gotta-
cover.
Yeah, I'm pretty great.
All right, I think that about does it. So we will talk to you next week. With that, goodbye.
Well, at least you get a front row seat to my demise.
That was set to kill.
So am I!